many things that we just were fed as a kid that just weren't true. And I'm thinking, well, why didn't I pick up on those things? And the church has done a pretty good job of that. The church is like, well, this is what you should believe. And if anything challenges that, just ignore it. Me growing up, I wasn't even allowed to learn about other religions. Oh, if they were teaching evolution in school, yep, I was taking the letter to the science teacher saying that my parents wouldn't allow me to learn that. I mean, really, that's the background I grew up in. And so I understand at some point we I guess, got to ignore things that aren't true, but at the same time, shouldn't we try to investigate those things? So shouldn't we at some point explore the possibility that maybe we don't get it right? Think about the whole Christian thing, okay? Okay, so God created this world. At some point, he got mad at everybody and flooded it, right? I mean, it's true. Some man built an ark, kind of weird. 40 days, it rained. A bunch of people swimming until they drowned. Then God says he's never going to do it again. Shows a nice, pretty rainbow, right? I mean, some little midget guy named David knocks out the big guy with a whatever it was, a slingshot. That's what he got right there. That's how it worked, okay? And then even further along, the Son of God is born in a manger to a virgin. Come on, does that not sound like mythology to you, truthfully? I mean, if we're really going to talk about it, does that really seem that real? Does that really seem like something we should believe? At some point, we really have to investigate some things. And I'm not challenging whether or not you believe the Bible. In fact, I think as we walk through this, we'll figure a lot of things out tonight. But at some point, we can't just assume things are true because, well, that's what my mom said. I saw online today, Westboro Baptist Church, this place in Kansas, who is the creator of the God hates fags stuff, is the one who, they're the ones who says that God, they praise the fact that God sends home dead soldiers. It's a representation that God hates America. I mean, they were just sued today because they were picketing a dead soldiers thing in this Westboro Baptist Church. And there's people after people, and I could show you interviews of people who were interviewed who were brainwashed with this dogma and this belief system and just grew up thinking, okay, that's just true. So at some point, we can't just say things are just true. But at some point, we still have to say, look, there's things we just don't know. I think one of the big problems with the Christian faith is we don't pursue things we don't know. We're just like, well, I'm not talking about that. Scripture says in Matthew, it says this. It said that someone came to Jesus and said, Jesus, who's the greatest in all the kingdom? And Jesus goes and picks up a kid and says this. Let me tell you this. And he sits him on his lap and says, if you don't have faith like this guy, you'll never inherit the kingdom. In fact, if you do have faith like this guy, you're the greatest in the kingdom. And I'm thinking, wait. When I had faith in Santa Claus, I had faith in the Easter Bunny. What are you saying, God? Are you saying that you're not supposed to pursue knowledge? What are you saying? Well, I think what's going on here, and this is where we're going to spend most of our time tonight. I think what's going on here is Jesus saying, look, there's this place where, yeah, you need to pursue and understand and try to learn and try to know. But at the same time, there's just things you're not going to get because your mind is never, ever, ever going to be able to wrap around it. It's not. If you look at Scripture, open it up. Very first words in the Bible are this. In the beginning, God. What does that mean? In the beginning, God. Well, so you're saying that in the very beginning, there was God. Okay. Well, what came before the beginning? God did, right? Well, when was that? Well, that was in the beginning. Well, who was God's daddy? Who created God? I mean, there's some things that are just beyond our scope of understanding. It's a little bit weird. Wouldn't you agree that there was just this being that's always been? Moses says, well, God, what do I tell him? And who do I say said this? Who do I say sent me? And he said, well, say I am. I am Johnny Appleseed. I am the big green giant. What do you want me to say, God? No, just say I am. I mean, there's some things. I'm good. I like this. This is fun. So there's just some things that you're like, well, I don't really know that I understand. You say that you're God in the beginning. In the beginning was God. And then he says this. In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. Goes on and talks about this stuff. And then it said God created Adam. And then God created Eve. And guess how he created Eve? Another creepy story, right? Puts Adam to sleep, pulls out the rib, and all of a sudden the next day a lady's there. I mean, kind of strange. You're like, well, that's neat. I can count my ribs. Guys have one less than girls, so I guess that could possibly make sense. But I don't know that I buy it. I don't know that works. I mean, okay, how does this work? And so let's actually look at what goes down, so we can try to figure out if there's any real reason or any real solution to why this is happening. Let me see if I can switch this so I can move. Test 1, 2. Is this on, Lowry? There we go. Is it going to pop? Wonderful. Okay, I'm gonna leave this right here. I'm sorry for the improper etiquette of you being able to see this. Apparently I'm supposed to tuck it and keep it right above my crack, my hiney. But that's how it's supposed to work. That's not happening tonight. Okay. So in the beginning, God created Adam and Eve, and it says this in Scripture. It was good. God said it was good, right? And then Adam and Eve, I'm going to move this out of the way. And then you know the story. Adam, Eve, God, all in a good place, loving life, enjoying it. Life is pretty grandioso, which is Spanish for a pretty big deal, and maybe it's not even Spanish, and maybe it doesn't translate exactly that way, but for now that works well for our story. And so life is going good. They're loving life. Everything's good. And then you know the story, most of you. If you don't, I'm gonna clue you in. Adam, Eve, they find out that maybe they can have the same knowledge as God and kind of be like God, and they're kind of deceived and thinking if they eat from this fruit, and they're completely lied to and say, look, if you eat from this fruit, not only will you know like God knows, but you surely won't die. And they're like, that sounds good. God told us not to. That was the one thing he said. Don't eat from the fruit. We're going to eat it anyway. Goes, grabs the apple or fruit, bites into it. And then Eve's like, oh my goodness, I see this. Hey, Adam, you do it too. They both eat it. And then their eyes are open. And it says that they realized they're naked. And then they went and hid, right? And they were afraid, all those things. Well, here's the thing. It's an incredible story because basically what you have, you have Adam, God, Eve. Everything's good. Everything's lovely. Perfect. Adam and Eve completely have value, validity, everything they are in God. Then they decide, you know what? We're going to sin. You know, and I think we hear that word and I'm like, well, what exactly does that mean? Again, something that we just say probably and don't really investigate what it means. Here's what I think that it means. It doesn't mean that you murdered someone. I mean, that is sin possibly, or that you lied, or you stole, or that you embezzled, or whatever thing you want to say, or however you want to say it. Look, here's the deal. What sin is sin is when you do something to try to give yourself value, to make you worth something. Adam, Eve, they decided that they didn't want just God and that connection. They wanted to do something more. They wanted to add something to who they were. They want to add something to their understanding. Look, when we lie, we're either lying to cover up something to make ourselves feel better or lying to make ourselves look better. I mean, when we steal, it's because we want something somebody else has or because we want something ourselves to make ourselves feel better. All these different things, mainly just to make us better or feel better or think better of ourselves or make ourselves look better. So Adam and Eve, they make that choice. They sin against God. And it says that then there was this absolute disconnection from God, perfect relationship, nailed, completely disconnected relationship. Adam and Eve, they sinned, they lived in this life where they sinned. And here's the thing that sucks about sin is we don't really get it. We think of sin, well, that's the thing that keeps us from God, but it's worse than that. The very thing that we think when we sin, which we're trying to add value to our lives, really what we're doing, don't get it, we don't see it, is we're actually devaluing ourselves. Think about it. I mean, I know story after story. I was a student in ministry for a long time. Of teenage girls who did some really dumb things, hurtful things with guys, pursued some physical stuff. I mean, y'all know these stories. I'm not telling you something you don't know, but something they thought, man, maybe I'll get some value. I'll feel better about this. It wasn't like, well, I'm going to add 7 points to who I am. I mean, I don't think it's that kind of process, but somewhere in it, they're thinking, man, this will make me feel better. This will get me attention. This will gain me value. So they move into that kind of relationship, make these kind of choices, and the very thing they thought was going to give them value was the very thing that in the end made them feel devalued. For me, it was relationships. Man, I'd get into a relationship. It'd be a bad one. It wouldn't matter to me. I thought I was good at those things. I loved being in a relationship. I loved being a good boyfriend. I loved all those things. So I'd pursue relationships. I think this makes me feel better about myself. The girl would leave me completely, and then I would end up thinking, man, I'm just in a worse spot. I feel even less value. I mean, I don't know what it is for you. I don't know if it's cutting. I don't know. I have no idea what's going on for most of you in your life. What I do know is what the very thing that you're pursuing that you think is going to make yourself feel better is the very thing that's going to hurt you. And time after time, from the time of Adam and Eve, from the time of the disconnection, for thousands upon thousands of years, now still where we sit, it's the life that we all live. The one thing that we can define is that daily we go after things and look for things that make ourselves feel valuable, to make ourselves feel better. I mean, look at Noah. Story of Noah, you got a world that just doesn't realize they need God, was disconnected from God, pursuing their own things, their own selfish ambitions and pleasures and desires and all those things. And God's looking around thinking, man, I want one of you to figure this out. I just want somebody here to realize that they need me, that I am the provider of their value. Adam and Eve, I was the one that gave them their validity and their value. I was it. I was the guy. And then they got disconnected from that, and now they're just searching and hurting and sad and all those different things, and they're looking all over.